Today we have a tremendous speaker. His name is Rick Gardner. He's an actor and he's the star of the BYLER ROAD, a movie that's coming out shortly. Now here's the thing that's really great about Rick is he has a tremendous background. He was a combat Marine and he'll tell you more about it. But I'm telling you, he's a real sharp guy and we love to have him. So what's your feelings about motion pictures and how they should be treated in the future by the audience and how by the actors that are in film? What's your thoughts on it?
And it seems like every decade our nation worsens by leaps and bounds, almost into a quagmire. I think actors in Hollywood and even the media, they play a large role in shaping what people feel, what people think, what people do, how they act, how they dress. And more I see news media where actors have become more politicized, supporting a very liberal agenda, and they take a total disregard to the youth and what their portrayals or what movies they're coming out with or what television shows they're coming out with. These children want to, and I may be using the wrong word, emulate. And I find that to be very disturbing because very rarely are you able to see a movie or a show with good quality. And when I say good quality, I mean no cussing.
So tell me more, Rick. Tell me more about how you feel about the politics of the world. That's fine. We are living in a difficult time, not just an ordinary time, difficult.
Well, everybody always looks at politics as either Democrat or Republican, liberal or conservative. What about an individual or the individual's family that is conservative in nature, but also God-fearing? And I think people that believe in God, people that believe in Christ, are here lately being shunned for their very belief. And if we have lack of acceptance towards a degree of wrongfulness, then we are more and more chastised about it. I think myself, my daughter Julianne, she was in the play with us, and she played my daughter during that movie, and I see what the college systems are doing to our youth. Granted, they're in college and they look at themselves as adults, but I see the indoctrination, literal indoctrination, that is rearing up like a dragon's head and indoctrinating the youth into a dark world and a godless world. There's Republican, there's Democrat. However, myself, I consider myself conservative. There's many things in the liberal mindset that I wholeheartedly disagree with, and I believe anybody can take the Bible and twist it, warp it, and try to pervert the sweet, delicate words that are printed in the scriptures.
You say it well.
And that being said, think, unfortunately, I think, and I feel that the current path that our nation is on is one of destruction.
Well, I don't dispute it, and I think you're going to find out at that meeting, you're going to get a lot of people saying the same thing. This is a conservative region of the United States, and it'll show. It'll probably demonstrate that with speeches that people will give. In 5 minutes they get to express something, but if they're a person like yourself who would be an invited guest, you can speak longer.
Well, yeah, I appreciate that, and to give you one of 1,000 examples. I got on Facebook, the media site, and my wife tells me, all you got to do is scroll past it. You don't have to make a comment. Yeah, I got to make a comment. Because if I see something that is totally out of whack, misaligned, if I don't say it, then does it get said? Evilness comes into our country like the tide of an ocean, like the wave, to where it literally devours part of the beach, and it just keeps coming closer until it all consumes. If I may elaborate,
Sure.
you indicated that the media was going to get rid of the First Amendment, freedom of speech. I would partially agree with that. I think it is the liberal agenda and Democrats that, without trying to say that I'm a conspiracy theorist, it doesn't take much of a theorist to see what is going on in our nation. We see riots and we see roadblocks, we see a host of things that are being thrust upon our communities, and in liberal states controlled by liberal politicians, they are allowing these riots and allowing roadblocks and allowing all manners of iniquity. However, in opposition, if you are a conservative, they point the finger of dismay at us. Now, for the life of me, I do not understand why a news outlet, why a reporter would support and back individuals that are known communists or known socialists, because ultimately communism and socialism will remove and take away the First Amendment rights.
That's right.
And therefore you are literally biting the hand that feeds you. I remember reading a story, if I may.
Sure.
And it was a college course, and the professor who was indoctrinating his students at this university, and I hope I say this story correctly, but in this in his teachings, he said, "Can I get a raise of hands who think that this nation should actually be socialist or communist, to where everybody should get an equal share of the pie?" And many students raised their hands, except one individual. And he was a foreign student on a visa, and he was from Africa. And he raised his hand, and the teacher chose him. And he simply said, "Do you know how to hunt pigs?" And the professor was like, "Hunting pigs, what does that have to do?"
Yeah.
He said, "But do you know how to hunt pigs?" The professor laughed, and the students laughed because they're talking about socialism and communism. He says, "So am I." He said, "Because where I was in Africa,"
That's great.
he says, "where I was in Africa is under a socialist regime. Now, hunting pigs, they come down a certain trail, and they hunt, and they find food and they eat. But to hunt those pigs, to control those pigs, they lay out a pile of corn. And those pigs come down the trail, and they see free corn. What a treat.
Yeah.
And they eat this free corn and they leave. But now they know where this free corn's located, and so they place down more free corn. And after a week or two, they realize that this free corn is there for the taking. And as they approach the corn the next night, they notice a fence panel put up. A little cautious about it.
Oh,
And they walk up and they eat the free corn, wondering what this fence panel's for. And they come back the next night, more free corn, and there is another fence panel in an L shape connecting to the first one. And then the third night, another fence panel on the opposite side of the first one. And now it's a U-shaped fenced-in area. And some of the older ones, they're a little bit more cautious, but they see the young ones eat, and so they too go in and eat the free corn. And on the fourth night, they see a fence panel that shuts it off, except there is a hole, a gate, an opening. The young ones immediately go in after the free corn.
Oh boy.
There's just one or two older pigs
Wisdom.
that hang back and watch, distrusting. And the remaining portion of all these pigs go in, trips the wire, and the gate shuts. The pigs run around in circles. They're trapped, nowhere to go, but there's still free corn. And on the sixth day, hunters came in and started eliminating the pigs and took away their corn. Whereas the pigs that stayed out the fence are able to free and go and roam and build their own lives. He said that is socialism, that is communism. It is much easier, by far, to become a socialist or to become a communist. But you will have to fight to the death to get out of it.
Well, that's a heck of a story, no question about it. And we are facing that kind of situation in a few months. We are not that far away from that decision that everybody should be making. They're going to use their vote until they can't use a vote. That's the whole problem we're dealing with. And I always think, well, it's in the future, we can deal with it down the road and all that. No, it is on top of us like we've never had in our lifetime.
Well, Tom, I think Americans as a whole have, because of the corruption of the media, people do not trust the media. And we become desensitized.
Correct.
Now, I would venture out on a limb to say this, that as long as people have air conditioning, as long as people have food in their refrigerator, and as long as people have a channel changer to watch their television show, and as long as people have gas for their cars and a job to go to, they don't really care about what the politicians are doing behind our back. Alarming thing, Tom, that I saw, that I only saw on the news once. And that's the scary part. That's the scary part because it should be ran 24/7 on every news outlet. But it was just one-time shot. And it disturbed me so I put it on Facebook. I got like one hit, one like. And I thought, this nation is so close to being doomed. And that news, when I was watching it about a week ago, it said that the Democrats are aligning themselves to immediately move towards the reduction of $400 a month per person on Social Security. And they said they're doing this to save Social Security.
Yeah.
I'm like, if you take $400 a month away from somebody living off of Social Security, it will literally destroy them. The bad part of it is, for people that read the Bible, for people that read, I'm trying to think of the book. It's in the Old Testament, the book of Isaiah and the book of Daniel.
Oh, yeah.
And if you read, everybody just picks on and looks at the book of Revelation 13.
No.
And they do not see that the evilness is aligning itself against Israel, a covenant nation, and Israel will be protected. Do not they understand that they are totally surrounded by Muslim countries desiring to wipe them out and kill them? Why have they not been able to do so? It is because God Almighty has chosen Israel as a covenant people. He has commanded and promised that once there is the gathering of Israel, which has already occurred, that Israel will never be taken away from them again. Now, we all know stories of the book of Revelation and the Battle of Armageddon. But we also, in my lifetime, I always looked at the Jewish people, Israel, as the state that we protect, our ally. Obama comes into office and he starts making sanctions against Israel. He unites with the Muslim Brotherhood. And then we see Biden coming into office. And sure, on the front end, bait and switch. He supports Israel when Hamas attack. However, in today's society, they preach and they yell about equal rights. They preach against racism. It is a law of our land. No anti-Semitism. No racist speeches. No racist remarks. But yet here we have Columbus University students rioting and burning the Israeli flag and burning the American flag. I consider myself a peaceful individual.
That's for sure. You are.
My daughter, Julianne, she says, a lot of people look at me and say, from my looks, I'm intimidating. And I look like a big grizzly bear. She laughs. She goes, they don't know. She goes, once they get to know you, you are nothing but a teddy bear. I said, yeah, well, don't let the word out. However, my wife and I were watching protesters burn the American flag. That is something I consider myself a patriot. I consider myself an American. And the American flag I will also protect and defend, even at the cost of my own life. I swore an allegiance to this country. I swore an oath to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States as well as America against all enemies, both foreign and domestic.
Well, let me ask you something. That's a tough one to say, what you just said. What would trigger you to change you into a defensive person that would defend your family?
Well, if we look at it at a broad spectrum and reduce it down to our own neighborhood, reduce it down to our own house, we have politicians opening our borders, allowing over 15 million. I do not call them migrants. They're not migrants. They are illegal intruders. They have came into our country illegally. And we see the Democrats literally shelling out millions and millions of dollars. They are giving them money from the Social Security Fund, which now they have drained. They have robbed well over $3 trillion in Social Security, which was not supposed to be touched by law.
Right.
And now,
But see, what we have now is the leadership is the opposite side of what you and I grew up with.
exactly.
And what are we going to do? See, I don't want to hear civil war because I hate it.
Yep.
I don't want to hear revolution because I hate it.
Yes.
But what happens if it slaps you smack in the face? Then what do you do?
Okay, so right now we have, and that's why I say, if you expand it out to the nation, if we may, let's reduce it down to our town. Let's reduce it down to our block. I live just around the corner from you.
That's right.
Let's reduce it down to our individual homes. Whereas
Done. We'll do that.
the Democrats, the liberals, they say, oh yeah, these people need to, come into our country. If we look at our individual homes, if they feel that building a fence and building a wall is racist, then why do they have a lock on their front door? Why do the politicians have security and fences and gates and walls around their own homes? They're talking out of both sides of their mouth, forked tongues. I believe that our nation is heavily influenced and by Satan right now. I'm wholeheartedly believing that because we see some of the most evil things going on that are just disgusting.
Well, the halftime shows in football are satanic. It's outright obvious.
I was talking about that very thing, this morning.
So I want to thank Rick Gardner. Thank you, Rick.